Good evening, dosto. Welcome back. I'm going to talk to you on a small topic, but this is very important, and let's accept what it is. As you know, what has happened is that Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, was blowing hot and cold on the Wakf Act, which was originally passed in 1923 during the days of the British Raj, and subsequently had been amended in favor of the minority community by none other than the Congress Party, with the last amendment in 2013 under the famous Sardar, the lackey of the Italian who ran the country at that time. Anyway, and the amendment was so powerful that the Waqf Board Act gave powers to the Waqf Board to, in a way, to take any territory in India, any land in India at any time, if they could prove that at some stage it had been part of the religious rights or something like that. And there was no contest on it, and it was the word of the Waqf against anybody else. So it was very right that the act either should have been amended or totally abrogated. So we were thinking that Narendra Modi is going to do that. He had introduced the act in Parliament, and he had been assured of support by his allies, that is Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu. And there was also a modicum of support, I believe, from a section of the opposition. Yet, 2 days back, he has withdrawn the act. And this is the biggest surprise of all time. This backtracking, when there was no agitation on or nothing, is difficult to understand. And it's about time the Modi government realized that when you have to take hard decisions, you have to bite the bullet. I think this is one quality which Narendra Modi doesn't have. As I earlier said, that he can roar, but he cannot bite. And if you go through the history, his track record for the last 10 years, it's been like that. I think half a dozen acts he had introduced, and he backtracked on them for no rhyme or reason. And the biggest of them was, his backtracking on the famous farm laws. There were three very progressive laws which had been passed by Parliament, and there was an agitation started basically by the Punjabi farmers from Punjab, and they were men with money, they were men with a lot of influence, and they took it as a very, they became like the merry men of Robin Hood, sitting in the jungle and enjoying themselves. In this case, they were sitting on the roads to Delhi, enjoying themselves. I believe a lot of whiskey flowed in there, and a lot of things happened. Even I think one or two murders took place. And finally, Narendra Modi capitulated after almost a year and said that he was sorry that he had passed the laws. I mean, this was not required. He apologized to the farmers. And then he was thinking perhaps he's going to win some seats in Parliament as well as the State Assembly in Punjab. Net result is he was wiped out in Parliament. Number one, no seat. And he was wiped out even in the state elections. I think won just 2 or 3 seats or something like that, with the Aam Aadmi Party winning over 90 seats or 117. So this should have been a lesson to Modi, but he backtracked every time, and he backtracked even on the CAA, the Citizens Amendment Act, once the Muslims started an agitation which is known as the Shaheen Bagh agitation. And a number of facts, I won't tell them, you all can read in the press. He backtracked all the time. That means he didn't have the mettle, the courage to face up to it. There's an old saying, not an old saying, there's a book written by Alistair MacLean, Fear is the Key. I've quoted it a number of times. That appears to be, the driving influence of the Modi government. Fear is the key, dar jana. And this is something I don't blame Narendra Modi for it, frankly. It's in the Hindu genes. Because from the 10th century onwards, once Prithviraj Kapoor had been defeated in the Battle of the Rain by Muhammad Ghori, with a lot of traitors joining Muhammad Ghori, Hindu traitors, I think it has been one way downhill defeats for the Hindu armies all the time. And net result was that the Hindus were governed by the Muslims for a good part of 900 years. And during this period, they were paying the jizya tax, they were doing everything, whatever the Muslims said. Of course, there was a modicum of peace in the country, but the overall superiority of the Muslims could not be denied. And in terms of marriage, it was a one-way traffic with a lot of Hindu girls being just captured or taken away or by the Nawabs or something or the harem, and that's something you can't deny it. Well, gentlemen, that's precisely what was happening all the time. The Hindus were subjugated till the British came, and then there was a renaissance, and the Hindus got up. But they didn't got up sufficiently because later on the British started a divide and rule policy and started favoring the Muslims, and ultimately it led to the partition of India, And the Muslims got their own country, that is Pakistan, but they set up an Islamic state, no doubt about it. And in India, Gandhi, Nehru, and Patel opted for secularism, though it should have been a Hindu state because the division of India at that time was done on the basis of religion. Nobody can deny that. The Hindus were probably not ready for this because after being 1,000 years trodden over and being ruled by somebody else, they really couldn't think of that they're going to, have their own rule. So they're a little scared, they're a little apprehensive, and they had leaders like Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, I don't agree with his policies at all. He's a great man, no doubt, but he led India to doom by agreeing for partition. Number one, he shouldn't have agreed for it because if the Hindus and Muslims lived for 1,000 years together, they could live another 500 years, no problem. But he agreed for partition and he gave up all his principles. He didn't follow the democratic norm of election in the Congress Working Committee. When Patel had the majority, he handed over the leadership of the government, the prime ministership, to Pandit Nehru. Khair, it's all past history now. बात करने के बारे में, talking about it has got no relevance actually now, except we know why it happened. And that gene has continued throughout. There was a spineless government led by the Sardar, the famous one, and then of course Narasimha Rao did give a semblance of spine in him, but he didn't have the courage to go full hog. And that's something which went against him. And there were all sort of nondescript people hanging around, And then the situation has now come back to the same square one, and we thought Narendra Modi is going to bring some revolutionary changes, and at least he would put the Hindus and the Muslims on par. Now we in India, we have the Sharia being applicable for the Muslim personal law, while the Hindus are governed by the national laws. So, like we have the Hindu Marriage Act, which has been amended, you can't have more than one wife, etc., etc., and it's been made applicable to the other communities like the Sikhs and the Jains. But unfortunately, it was not applied to the Muslims. I couldn't understand why. Pandit Nehru was a little shy of doing it, and that result is the Muslims have their own personal law, which follows the Sharia. Now, this doesn't happen in any country where you have two sets of laws continuing, but it happened in India, unfortunately. Now, the Muslims stay in France or in America, they don't have the Sharia, they have the local laws. But in India, marriage, property, etc., governed by the personal law of the Muslims. We had thought that Narendra Modi is going to bring in some changes and he would abrogate the Sharia and make a national uniform civil code, which is, by the way, enshrined in the Constitution. It's not something which has come from the top. It's part of the Constitution, which says that in the directive principles that the state will endeavour to enact a uniform civil code for all its citizens. Unfortunately, that didn't happen here. We thought Modi is going to do it. He didn't do it. He hasn't done it yet, though he's been in power for 11 years, and 11 is a long time. And if he couldn't do it in 11 years, I don't think he's going to do it in another 5 years. Because he's dogged, I think, by a psychosis of fear. I couldn't understand what is his psychosis. Why should he get scared, Because this is an element of fear. Even in the crisis in Bangladesh, where the Hindus have been persecuted and hammered mercilessly, I think he's just been sitting on his haunches. This was the time. If the Israelis or somebody have kept quiet, if their Jews were being butchered like that, unfortunately, this is precisely what happened, and he didn't have the courage to move into Bangladesh with the Indian army and sort out the issue. And every place, there's a backtracking going on and always trying to look correct, like you don't want to favor the Israelis too much. So you start making some statements, some noises in favor of Hamas or in Palestine and all that, and then you expect that the others will also support you. And it's a very sad story. I don't think I want to make a long video on this. The fact is, the present BJP government, led by Narendra Modi, a lot was expected, didn't come up to standards. They have now shelved the Wakf Act. I don't know when it will be introduced, maybe sometime next year, and it may never be introduced at all. And the Hindus can just keep twiddling their thumbs, thinking that they have a Hindu party. But it's going to have a backlash, I can tell you, because Modi may not realize it, but the bulk of the Hindus are getting pretty chaffed, What the hell is going on, he said. There should be a uniform law for everybody, and yet, despite Narendra Modi promising these things, nothing's happened. So I think at the next hustings, unless the BJP can get a better leader, a leader who's more dynamic, I don't know who it is going to be, someone who has the courage to lead India forward, I think Narendra Modi, if he contests the elections right now, I think he would be defeated. It will be a very sad commentary, but nothing else to say. The Wakf Ford has come to an end, and it will continue, and then the other things will also continue, and so nothing much is to be done as far as India is concerned. Gentlemen, I'll close now and say goodbye. I hope you like my video. Please share it with your friends. Come back for more. Goodbye, God bless, and Jai Hind.